afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Successful Sutton with our bi-weekly series of Sutton Means Business webinars. It's great that you're all able to join us this afternoon. We've got another very interesting subject to talk about, a subject that we all should be able to relate to in these unprecedented times where we find ourselves, most of us at least, sat at home, some of us working, others people furloughed. How do we help? How do we cope with this situation? How, as employers, do we make sure that our staff, whether they're working or furloughed, how the health and well-being of our staff is affected? How to ensure that people stay fit and healthy and well? At some point, we're going to come out of this. How do we make sure that that workforce is able to be in the right place for when we're ready to come out of that? We've got a great panel of experts with us this afternoon, and I hope that all of you watching will take the opportunity to talk to these experts and ask questions, get some advice. It's totally free, and you don't have to wait on the line on the end of a long phone call on hold whilst you try and get through to the right people. They're all here now ready to talk to you, so please do use this opportunity. Before I introduce them to you, I just want to remind you of how you can do that this morning. First of all, on your panel, on your control panel, you will see the Q&A button. That's where you can ask any of our panels a question. That question will come to me and I will put your question to the panelists. So you've got a particular comment or a query over something that someone said or not said, then please put it in the form of a question on that panel. You can remain anonymous, but that question will be put to the panel. There's also a chat button, and that's the button which you can use to talk directly via an email link to any one of our panelists. And they will also be able to share with you important information that they might refer to during this webinar. So links to websites or other places that you can go to for additional help. If you want to talk to us actually in person, you can do that too. And you can use the virtual wave button in your control panel. That means you can give me a virtual wave. That will let me know that you want to ask a question in person, and we can invite you into the conversation to do that. And we hope some of you will do that this morning. It's great to actually hear some other voices and to get the opportunity for that interaction to work as best as it can. So just a reminder, do talk to us this morning. It is this afternoon. Do talk to us this afternoon. We want to hear from you and we want to make this as interactive as possible. So I'm going to just introduce you to our panelists and ask them just as a way of intro, just to remind us all who they are. Some of you will know them, others of you won't, and just to give a quick overview on what they're bringing to the conversation this afternoon. I'm going to start just with Helen. Helen is from the HR department. Hi, Helen.
Hi there, everyone. I work for a company called the HR department, and if you haven't come across us already, we kind of do what the name says on the tin, really. We help people, we help small businesses, SMEs, with their HR. So we offer an outsourced HR service where we do exactly as an HR team in a large organisation would do, but we do that from a more remote position. We also do sometimes come in and visit our clients, but obviously at the moment we're just doing that virtually. So we've had a lot of queries, as you can imagine, about what to do for companies who are struggling. Before the job retention scheme came about, people were wondering how to deal with redundancies or laying people off, and then we had the little lifeline of the furlough scheme. So we've been advising all our clients on how to manage that. And now moving on from that, we'll be talking to them about how they manage their businesses going forward. And of course, that does include the ongoing matter of employee wellbeing and how we do that differently in these remote times.
Great, thank you. I guess you've never been busier. And just a reminder to everybody listening, this is a free opportunity. I'm sure some of you have got some questions around the furlough scheme that maybe you haven't been able to find the right answer to. So this afternoon is your opportunity to put those questions to Helen, and we'll be coming back to Helen in a few moments to get her to give us her overview of currently where we're at with that, and also in terms of well-being. I'm going to move over to Mala and Valentino. They are from Energy Fitness in Wallington. And just to say to you all that they are following social distance guidelines, because they do actually cohabit. So they are allowed to be that close to each other on this call, just in case anyone was wondering. But Mala and Valentino, thank you for joining us. Just give us a quick update on energy.
Thank you for having us. So basically, I am the director of Energy Fitness Gym in Wellington, and I have with me one of our personal trainers, and he is a nutritionist, and he can give you a bit more background.
Yeah, basically I'm a vegan nutritionist because I'm vegan myself, so this is the certificate I've got. So I'm not a direct competitor of Sona, so you should be happy for that. And then obviously my main focus is personal training, so that's my main field. Then the nutrition was kind of something to add on top of my qualification.
Great, lovely. Well, yeah. I know that at this current time, keeping fit is a very good way of keeping mind and body healthy. I'm going to come to Sonal. Hi, Sonal. Sonal is from Gavani Training. Talk to us about that.
Synergy Nutrition. That's
Sorry,
okay.
the wrong way around. Sorry.
No, don't worry. There's loads of companies. We all sound the same. Yeah. No, that's fine. So I'm director of Synergy Nutrition, which I've been running for over 10 years. So my main goal is to make sure, it's providing simple solutions to health basically. So whatever your health goals are, I can try and help. I do work with a lot of busy, stressed individuals, so 20 years plus. And at the moment, it's all about immune system support. So I will be sharing my expertise on that. So if anyone's got any questions, I can answer that. I'm also a media nutritionist. So I've been writing a lot of content as well, which has been keeping me busy over the last few years. So for like Men's Health, for example, The Sun, The Metro, my publications are actually on my website, so you can have a look at that as well. And also I work with lots of small businesses. At the moment, obviously with us being locked down, I haven't been able to work with the companies that I do, such as Heathrow. But when things go back to normal, I'll be back to running my workshops and seminars at Health and Wellbeing Days, which is really fun because I love educating about healthy eating and holistic living as well. That's me.
That's great. I mean, there's a loads there, and hopefully we're going to unpick some of that during the course of the next hour, particularly I think around that immune subject. I think we'd all like to know how we can help to avoid getting COVID-19, if at all possible. What do we need to do apart from the obvious social distancing and the other government messages? How can we look after our bodies, I guess, to position ourselves to be in the best place for that? So now I'm going to come up over to Farah. Apologies, Farah. Farah, you are from Gavani Training. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Almost Gavani coaching, but close. We run a lot of training. So yeah, my name's Farah. I'm an executive coach and mindfulness trainer. And in a nutshell, what we do is we help people thrive amidst change and uncertainty. And yes, that does include during pandemics. So we offer leadership training, one-to-one coaching if you're responsible for teams or running your own business. And we also are spending a lot of time looking at employee well-being. So a large part of what we offer is around mindfulness training, resilience training, and how to handle uncertainty. So I'm happy to share quick fixes for how to ride the waves of uncertainty, and also some longer term approaches. And everything we do is set with the intention to transform the ways we work, lead, and live.
Great, thank you. There's lots there that we're going to be able to talk about, I know, and I think certainly uncertainty is a big word at the moment. We don't know how long this is going to go on. Once we start to come out the other side, we don't know what the new world's going to look like. And certainly many of us don't know what our businesses are going to look like and what shape or form they might need to take. So I guess making sure that everyone is in the right place from a well-being, mindfulness point of view is going to be a big step towards helping us through with that. Nick, I'm going to come over to you. So Nick, you're able to talk to us from a Successful Sutton point of view. Patricia, who many of you know, who leads the Successful Sutton bid, is not able to be with us, but Nick is the chair of Successful Sutton bid, as well as holding a number of other positions within Sutton. So over to you, Nick.
Well, that's pretty much stolen my little introduction. Thank you. By way of background, I am a commercial lawyer, albeit that I retired from practice several years ago now. Uniquely in this group, I don't claim to be an expert on any of the topics with which we're concerned today. I've looked into most of them from the point of view of, if you like, a client or a user, but that makes me someone who's curious to find out. I believe very strongly in the wealth of resources we have in our community, and that this is a time to pool those resources for the benefit of all concerned. That is indeed the rationale behind bid companies like Successful Sutton. As I should have mentioned, this is the third in a series, and I hope that all of them will prove helpful. And thank you, Catherine, for so ably chairing this as you have the previous two.
Well, I made a few boobies so far this afternoon, but hopefully we'll better move on and I'll get it right in the next 45 minutes. So I'm also really pleased to announce that we have an additional member of our panel this afternoon. Stephen Moore is with us. We can't actually see you at the moment, Stephen. I don't know whether that's because you've got a problem with your camera, but you are, I think, with us. Are you with us, Stephen? Okay, I'm going to give you an introduction to Stephen and tell you that he will be with us shortly, I'm sure. Stephen is joining us from Faithful and Gould, which is a company, a large national company, part of the SNC Lavalin Group in terms of construction. They have offices all over. I think I'm right in saying that Stephen is based in Tunbridge Wells, but they have a big office in Sutton. In Epsom. Stephen leads within Faithful and Gould on staff health wellbeing, and at the moment I'm sure he's very busy with dealing with how that looks, and we thought it'd be helpful to hear from an actually big employer about how they're dealing with some of that. So at the point that he's able to join us, we'll be inviting him to come into the call. Now we have just launched a poll which is asking you how confident you feel about your business in the current climate. We did ask this last week. We're asking this every week because what we're trying to do is track how the confidence levels are changing as we go through the weeks and potentially months ahead. So be really grateful of those of you who are watching at the moment. Could just take a moment just to read that. If you answer 1, you're saying that you're not confident at all. But if you answer 10, you're saying that you're very confident about how your business is going to come out of this in however long that takes. So that is an intro to everybody. And those of you that are watching, you can see we have a whole panel of experts with us. And so please start thinking about some particular questions that you might want to put to them about your business or about other matters. I'm going to start the discussion this afternoon by going firstly back to Helen, because right at this moment, many businesses are in the middle or have already furloughed staff. And I think I'm right in saying that anybody that did apply by the deadline should now have received the money from the government to help them make their payroll contributions for that. So over to you, Helen, for a bit of an update on that first of all.
Yeah, so we've helped probably nearly 200 people work out how they're going to furlough their staff. And of course, the big dilemma for many companies was not whether they should, but how many people they should. Some companies have had to furlough everybody, but the really, really tricky times that people have had is when they know they've got some work to do, and they need some people to be able to do some of the work, but not everybody. So choosing those people has been a very difficult task for employers, and they've been very conscious of the impact on those individuals who are chosen. It doesn't really necessarily apply to individuals. It's probably more to do with the job that they hold. But as an individual, if you feel like you've been picked to be placed on furlough, you're either going to be skipping down the road thinking, great, I'm going to be paid 80% of my salary and do nothing, or more likely, many people are quite upset about that, and actually there's not enough for them to do. I know everybody's circumstances are very different. If you've got caring responsibilities, then perhaps that would be a blessing. But for people that don't have anything to do at home, that's very difficult. But nonetheless, employers have made those decisions, and we continue to help employers make those decisions as to when they bring people back and when they don't. And then, of course, last week people were able to start to log on to the HMRC portal, which was long awaited. and start to put their claims in. And we heard that at the weekend people started to get their money through. So hopefully, just in time for payroll, if you managed to get your claim in very early last week. And some companies, of course, will still be waiting for that. So another thing to perhaps think about when you're communicating with your staff who are on furlough is whether they're going to whether they're going to get paid or not, or reassure them that they're going to get paid would be a good thing.
Any advice for businesses that haven't heard or are still waiting? What is the...
Well, HMRC promised to pay within 6 days. So more likely than not, the 6 days is not up for everybody. So I think just wait. Money is coming through. There's been nothing, no information to say that there's any delays with the money coming through, and some have received it in less time than the 6 days. So I think just wait and the money will come through. I think let's have the confidence for that it will come.
I have to say, I've been very impressed by how smoothly that whole scenario went. I think, we were all a little bit doubting Thomas's in terms of how can any government or anybody put a website up that would have all the functionality and would work. Because I think I fully expected it to crash, but it didn't. So, absolutely tremendous job that seems to have gone very smoothly, which is great news. Can I just move you into a bit more around general staff health and wellbeing from an HR perspective, what you're recommending to clients at the moment?
So of course, all situations are different. So we've got staff that are on furlough, we've got staff that are working from home under very different circumstances and perhaps juggling other commitments like homeschooling and caring responsibilities and working at the kitchen table and not having the right equipment in front of you. To people that are having to go and work on the front line somewhere, they're key workers, having to make sure they've got the right PPE, making sure they're working safely if you have to go outside and work and mix with members of the public. So I think for employers to recognise the extra stresses and strains that people are under, not just in terms of their work, but also in terms of the current climate. We're all slightly apprehensive or very apprehensive about our own health. We're probably all apprehensive and worried about the future of the economy and the future of our own businesses and our own jobs. So employers, I think, need to recognise that and do their best to communicate well with staff under very difficult circumstances. We're all facing those difficult circumstances too, but we have a responsibility to make sure that we communicate as well as we can in as many ways as we possibly can with our staff that we may be used to seeing every day, and now we're not seeing them. So we have to find new ways of doing that, such as these types of communications.
And I guess it's fair to say that as employers, we do still have that obligation. So if someone's on our payroll and they have a health and wellbeing issue that means they're unable to work, just because they're furloughed doesn't take away our responsibility for that. And I guess that could have an implication at the point where we might want to bring them back if they haven't actually, if we haven't looked after them properly now.
Yeah, that's right. And people will can still be sick if they're working from home. You might still be unwell, and you feel like because you're sitting at your desk, or you can easily sit with your laptop on your bedside, it doesn't mean that you should necessarily continue to work. And of course, we should also make sure that we're taking all our breaks and make sure that we're not just constantly being online all the time just because we could sit with our laptop and our phone next to us while we're watching television at night. It's really bad for our mental health to just keep working the whole time, even though we kind of think we don't mind and we're grateful to be helping people and grateful to have a job. We must remember that we do need to take our breaks and we do need to do other things to look after our own health.
I couldn't agree more. It's just too easy when you're working from home to just be sat at looking at your computer with no distractions. And on the one hand, you think, isn't this great? I'm distraction free and get so much done. And then 10 hours later, you realise you haven't actually moved, which isn't great. And then you can't switch off when you try to. So I think I would second that. We've had a quick question just going back to furloughing. Some people are paying 80%. In the case of someone that might have paid 100%, are they then able to revert back down to 80% at some point in the future?
Yes, so you're not obliged to continue to pay 100% if you started to pay that. Again, I would say please communicate very clearly with your employees as far in advance as you can, so they know and they can make plans for any reduction in pay.
Okay, that's great. Stephen, welcome. Hi, Stephen. You had a few technical issues, I think.
I have, yes. Apologies, everybody. I did have some technical issues, but I'm here now. So
great. Can I just ask you at this point, just to give a little bit of an intro to yourself and why I asked you only a few hours ago, admittedly, if you could just pop onto this webinar.
Yeah, of course. So my name's Stephen Moore. I work for a company called Faithful and Gould. We're a multidisciplinary kind of construction consultancy. We're international, so we're part of the Atkins Group and the wider business, which is SNC-Lavalin. So the wider business, we're 50,000 plus employees. I guess the reason for joining the call today is that as well as my role as a project manager, chartered surveyor, I'm also a mental health first aider within our business. And it was a position that I volunteered for probably about 2 years ago. And I was put on a course. It was a 2-day course by kind of a provider by Mental Health First England. And so basically I'm part of a network within the business of we've got about 120 people now that are trained mental health first aiders. And we just have, we're basically there as a point of contact for everybody within the business to reach out to if they have any kind of mental health or well-being issues or concerns. And we provide that face within the business where they can reach out to, following kind of fairly robust protocols in terms of how we interact with other colleagues. But basically, I just got a few notes here. I'm trying to refresh myself. So basically, we've had this training, but we have refresher training within the business as well, because it's all well and good being trained, but unless you kind of keep yourself up to date on kind of charitable organisations, training, and other things that are available, you can quite quickly kind of lose touch with the most current information available. Basically what we do is we kind of provide a contact for people, and we can give information to staff and colleagues, kind of basically signposting them, but also having someone a kind of a set of ears to listen to any concerns and kind of worries that they have. But equally, as well as my mental health first aider role, I'm also a basic wellbeing champion for my office as well. I'm based in Tunbridge Wells. This isn't my office, this is my spare room. Based in Tunbridge Wells office. We've got kind of 35 employees, and I basically lead wellbeing within my particular part of the business. And so I kind of lead, and to give you a quick kind of feel for how I've approached that within my office. My approach has always been the 5 ways to well-being. So they are connect, just kind of remind myself here, keep learning, be active, to give and to take notice. Apologies if you've already been through this, but the way that I've done that within my part of the business is with regards to connect. I've established a social secretary within our office who organises events and kind of gets our kind of colleagues to join in, so they feel connected to the business and our office. To keep learning, I've got a CPD and training coordinator within my office who kind of provides access to training and kind of ongoing learning for colleagues. With regards to being active, we have a sports funding which I apply for annually to get some funding from the wider business to do some sports, and we've gone for this year for yoga lattes, so we've kind of gone for yoga and latte and Pilates. So we've got some money to kind of drive some probably not weekly but probably fortnightly sessions at lunchtime where we can kind of take staff out of the office, and to give. And basically this is just, it's a really positive thing, giving to kind of your local network, whether that be your neighbourhoods, your neighbours, that sort of thing. But within the business thing, it's people giving time to others, so making sure that we're supporting our colleagues, supporting junior members of the team, that sort of thing. So giving your time, and finally taking notice. Let's call this mindfulness, or we kind of go for walks from the office at lunchtime, kind of, and then basically it's about being in the moment. So I think we can all get quite carried away with things, kind of worrying about what's happened in the past, a meeting we've just had, concerned about a meeting we've got tomorrow. And I think it's just grounding yourself in where you currently are, so you can kind of focus yourself. And I think taking yourself out the office for a quick walk, or when you're, as we are now, kind of stuck at home, just trying to find that time to get out of the house, away from my 5-year-old twins, that sort of thing, just for 5 minutes. So
that's really good.
But that's me.
I think first aid what would you say your title was? First aid
mental health first aider.
That's great. I mean, we've all got first aiders because you have to have those, don't you? Usually as a legal requirement when you take over an office. But actually having a mental health first aider is something that I've not heard of before, but actually a really good thing. I'm going to come over to Mala and Valentina, because you touched there upon fitness and how you can keep fit. We do have a question that's come in from someone asking, are there any tips for fitness whilst working from home? I'm sure there's lots. Talk to us about that, Mala and Valentina.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've got a lot of online resources as well. So Sport England UK, there's a lot of links as to free fitness videos that you can access. And there's a lot that you can do from home as well, which I'm sure Valentina can sort of shed some light on, controlling your diet and alcohol intake and fitness as well. So
great, lovely.
Okay.
Valentina?
Yeah, there is a lot can be actually done at home. You don't need to go to the gym. Well, going to the gym will be the ideal, obviously. It's the easiest way to look after yourself from a physical point of view, and even mental point of view, I would say. But there is a lot can be done anyway at home. Obviously, it's not all the goals can be achieved, including increasing the muscle mass. But in all fairness, I have to say that it's more difficult than when you can actually use facilities such a proper gym. But this doesn't stop us with training at home. We can use only, all we need is just the floor for, I would say 60-70% of the exercises, and one chair, one sofa, not in the way you might think, to work out, I mean. And that's it, you can plan a effective and complete workout at home without any issues. You just need to will to do so.
Right. Okay. And I know that Energy you've got a website where there is online activity that people can get involved in, and I'm guessing that's for all ages. Anyone can exercise, even if they're more elderly in their years. As I was telling my parents the other day, there's nothing to stop them doing exercises from their armchair, or even just going up and down the stairs once more than might normally do. It all counts as physical exercise, so that's great. We have launched a second poll, and I think most people have taken part, but that is about a staff welfare scenario. Interestingly, everyone seems to be doing everything, which is fantastic. One thing that is slightly perhaps behind is asking staff, encouraging staff to complete training and to upskill. And I just want to give a shout out that I know that the government, I think it was only this morning, launched a new online toolkit for people that want to go and upskill. And maybe we'll come and ask Kelly a little bit more about that in a moment. She might know a bit more. Sonal, can I come to you in terms of the importance of nutrition at this time, both for employers who need to look after themselves and employees, and also talk to us a little bit about the immune stuff that you're doing?
Yeah, sure. So I'm all about preventative health. So at the moment, there's so much individuals can do to stay healthy. And I think that, there's no excuses. I think everyone has a little bit of extra time. So there's, somebody can prepare like a healthy breakfast, for example. You've got more time to have something in the morning, to avoid like skipping meals, because we're looking at food being, you're actually nourishing your body and energizing your body at the same time. Because it's really easy for individuals right now to maybe get into bad habits like snacking throughout the day and maybe relying on stimulants like coffee. So it's like really, it gives you a chance to reflect right now on how you can actually be healthier. I'm also about you know, good food makes you feel better as well. So it's about linking it with the good mood and digestion, because 70% of our immune system is in the gut. So it's about keeping things moving as well. So I'm not saying no to having things like caffeine and alcohol, for example, but just have it in moderation. But just my healthy tips would be for everyone, you know, watch your sugar intake, for example, especially the processed snacks. You know, a couple of biscuits can maybe add up to like half a packet of biscuits, and then there's a lot of sugar in that, for example. Sugars also have different names, so I'll just name just a few. Like, it's not only your common refined sugar, like table sugar, you've also got like glucose, fructose syrups, maltase, glucose invertase, you know, the list goes on. So these are things to look out for. Stay hydrated, so try and get a lot of fluids in. Have herbal teas like green tea. That would be a healthy alternative to maybe coffee, which kind of gives you this kind of bit of a high and then a low. And green tea also helps with concentration and focus as well, which is quite good. And it has antioxidants that have shown to fight viruses as well. So there's loads of reasons to be having that. Yeah. My other tips would be also look at how many portions of fruit and veg you're getting. So, you know, again, when I'm out and about, I do look at people's baskets and I don't see many fruit and veg. So it's a good time now to think, how can I actually get in at least 4 to 5, if not more, portions of fruit and vegetables? You know, you could do like a healthy smoothie, which doesn't take long. You can make soups and blend them in, for example. And vegetables do not have to taste bland. You know, I'm constantly educating my clients and telling them, make it taste good for you. Cook them in a way that you like and season it how you like. Now, if you can't get out, I mean, I would recommend trying to get outside as much as somebody can in the week, just to, you know, not only to get the fresh air and the vitamin D, but also to do your shopping. There are a lot of companies that deliver online. So again, that's no excuse to get some vegetable boxes sent to you as well. So you can always prep ahead with preparing. And I've got a guidebook that I've created on immune system support. So I'll share that on the chat box now so individuals can learn more. But also, just to add quickly, Catherine, is the other things about immune system, diet aside, it's about sleep as well. And right now, a lot of individuals' sleep patterns will be a bit erratic. You know, some of my clients that I've spoken to recently, for example, aren't sleeping enough, and I think that's because they're worried. So even though we're in a time where we shouldn't have much stress, there is still stress floating around for whatever reason. So I'd say sleep being number one, because the research is very, very strong here with sleep deprivation and it lowering the immune system, because during sleep, our body is repairing and healing. And, you know, if you want to grow an extra few centimeters, you have growth hormone produced as well. So there's a lot of balancing things that go on hormonally for the body. So sleep, I would definitely put more emphasis on. And again, caffeine and alcohol can lower your sleep quality, because you know, caffeine stays in the system for about 6 hours, and alcohol can also impact. So this is good quality deep sleep that we're looking at. And also somebody mentioned earlier about not looking at your gadgets late at night. And just adding to fitness, I would say it's really easy to sit for long periods of time and not move the body. But I think you've got to make time to put the gaps into your day-to-day routine where you are going to be moving your body, and just try to keep things going, because of the lymphatic system is really important. So for those that don't have special equipment, I would just say walking on the spot, even running on the spot, using maybe the chairs to kind of do like dips, like tricep dips, for example. And if you've got a mat, you can do some stretching. Even just like a couple of 10 minutes of stretching a day wakes up the body and just oxygenates that. So you're just switching off from everything else and you're focusing kind of breathing, and that kind of that's a more holistic approach to kind of health as well. Yeah.
Great, thank you. We've had a question in which you may or may not feel that you can answer, but it's a question around cooking healthy meals for elderly relatives and then dropping them off. And in the light of the current situation, is that allowed, and is that healthy? Is that a good thing to do?
I think, yeah, I think that's a good thing to do. I think I heard on the news that the government are relaxing it, and maybe in a few weeks' time, maybe sooner, we'll be able to visit socially, just like some like closer households. So I think that's great. I think actually stopping off and handing it over should be fine. You know, as long as people aren't staying in the house for too long. But in terms of, did they want some advice on also some healthy meals to cook for them as well?
I'm not sure, and I'm not sure whether the question is being asked in relation to, you know, from an immune point of view and the concerns over the virus. But my understanding is that cooked food, if you cook food, you will kill off the virus. that might be in something. So actually it should be fine. And certainly there's a lot of that going on, isn't there, in terms of people now being able to access takeaways and all those types of things as a way of boosting what they eat. I'm going to come to Farah. We've talked a little bit about sort of nutrition and fitness and health, but you're very much about mindfulness, aren't you? How do you look after your mind? It's not just your body, which Sonal did sort of touch upon that briefly, but talk to us a little bit about what you would be recommending now.
Yeah, thank you. Our minds and bodies are so connected, echoing what my fellow panelists have already said. And what I'm noticing in myself, in my family, friends, clients, is that we're resisting what's happening. We're pushing it away and we're rejecting all this uncertainty and trying to fill in the gaps. And that helps to a certain extent. You know, we try and control what we can control. You know, I'm a real list person. That's my certainty anchor. When things are just going crazy for me, I write it all down. I've got a list, and then I realize that the 15 things going around my head are actually only 5 things, and they're just showing themselves up in very different ways. So I encourage everyone to define their certainty anchor. You already know what it is. It's because it's what you automatically do when things feel panicky, stressy, too much, overwhelmed, whatever it is. But actually recognizing, if some people mind map, some people call their best mate and just talk at them for a bit, and because they're your best mate, they let you do that. Or whatever your anchor is, define it and use it as much as you need. So I've got lists all over the place. And then the other part of it, or another part of it, is about acknowledging that this is difficult, that things are uncertain, that this is really hard, because we're not, as a society, used to doing that. We're used to saying, yeah, everything's fine, yeah, I'm getting through it, I'm rolling up my sleeves and getting on with it, I'm not going to complain. But there's a difference between that and actually saying, yeah, things are tough. You know, the kids are driving me crazy. I'm surprised my husband and I haven't killed each other yet. And that's even before we talk about work things, right? Just because, you know, say you are sharing this, you're in proximity with someone that you said till death do you part. You didn't think it was going to be this much time, right? And that's okay to acknowledge that things are tough. Or maybe if you're on your own and you have no one else in your home, then acknowledging this is a struggle. I'm craving contact and whatever, and reaching out to people. This is a real time to acknowledge our needs, because, and I saw this lovely quote on Facebook that really landed for me. It said, we're not all in the same boat, but we are all in the same storm. So one way that we can anchor ourselves during the storm is acknowledging that and going, okay, things are difficult. It's not going to last forever, whatever it is. And I have no idea about all of your individual situations. Right? How could I? But things will change. And that is another anchor that we can use during these times. And they're like the short-term quick fixes that I mentioned in my intro. In terms of longer term approaches, then yeah, I mean, my whole business, my whole life really is around mindfulness and what these life-changing practices can offer us. In a nutshell, because I could talk about mindfulness all day, if you've come across mindfulness, then maybe what you've read about might be right. A lot of what's in the press is wrong, unsurprisingly, because who would think that about the press? But in a nutshell, mindfulness helps us be with the world as it is. The good, the bad, the ugly. And if things feel really bad and ugly right now, then things feel bad and ugly. Okay. There's no need to make ourselves feel worse by trying to pretend things aren't. And mindfulness gives us a wholesome way to be with that without either wallowing in self-pity or fear or pretending or glossing over things.
That's really helpful. And actually, to understand what mindfulness means is also helpful, because it is a bit of a buzzword at the moment. So I think that's really, and it's so apt for right now, isn't it? Because none of us could have foreseen this. No one has actually got an answer about how it's going to end or how long it's going to go on. And just being accepting of that situation and being in the right place around that situation is a big part, I think, of us all feeling good about the situation, or as good as we can feel. We did a webinar a couple of weeks ago, and someone gave a really important tip, which was actually it's okay to do nothing. So there was this whole thing when people were furloughed to begin with, and there was a lot of anxiety for people who were normally really busy, feeling guilty about the fact that suddenly they had nothing to do. And actually, he said actually it's okay to have nothing to do. We don't have to be manic for every day, all day, and actually taking some time out just to do nothing, read a book, or actually if you want to just watch Netflix all day, that's okay to do that. If you've got a son like I have that just wants to be on Xbox all day, that's actually okay at the moment. And it's okay to feel like that. So I think that was a really important tip that I took on board, because we've never been here before, and we didn't know what to expect. Stephen, I want to come back to you, because you're dealing with this very much on the front line with a workforce at the moment. You're all furloughed, working remotely. Are you seeing evidence of this, and how are you able to reach out to people in the current climate?
Yeah, I guess as a business, we're fortunate in the sense that we have a lot of work on at the moment. We've got a lot of pipeline work. So in terms of, I guess, furlough, it has occurred within the business, but it's been, I guess, in terms of numbers, it's probably quite low. But I think one of the key things with individuals that have kind of selected to take furlough as well, and the dialogue that's been had with them, we're really kind of focused as a business to keep in contact with them. And I can say personally, within the office that I work from, an individual has gone on furlough leave, and is still in contact with us. So we've had a pub quiz recently, and that individual joined the pub quiz, and so there's still that engagement. I mean, obviously they're not allowed to do any kind of work for the business, but I think keeping in contact is really, really important. And just with my team generally as well, I have kind of 2 calls a week with them. They're only kind of there are 2 hourly calls that I have with them a week, on a Tuesday and a Thursday, just to touch base with everybody within my team. And we deliberately don't talk about work. This is literally just a coffee and catch up. So everybody kind of goes and makes a coffee. We sit down there. We use Microsoft Teams within the business and with clients as well. It's a similar sort of platform, but we just sit down and we just talk for an hour. And it's just really important that we have that contact with our staff, with our employees, and equally as a business, we're doing very much the same with our clients as well. It's a great time to just make contact with clients, because obviously I'm in construction. We have sites where work is stopping, but that's not to say that it's not a great opportunity to reach out to other clients and kind of pursue other avenues and opportunities that are out there. So yeah.
Thank you. Nick, as I put a question into the chat, which was around workstations, and actually Helen might better pick up on this too. But Stephen, from your point of view, I think you mentioned earlier that you were quite used to working remotely. You were encouraging home working before, but for a lot of small businesses that suddenly found them having to send everyone home to work from home, did you issue any guidance around the right work environment in terms of people's workstation? And I know I'll come to Helen in a moment, because I know there's some rules around that, but how have you handled that as a business? Stephen?
To me, yeah, of course. We're as a business, we're quite kind of technology driven, so we all use laptops. So in terms of the majority of the business, kind of remote working has always been possible. So we've just continued that. I think we've just been, as an industry and let's just say everybody, we've kind of been pushed into taking on this technology really, really quickly. I guess as a business, we'd already adapted slightly, so we'd have flexible working anyway as a business. but we've just been pushed into being extremely flexible. But in terms of workstations and that sort of thing, we use laptops, but there was an opportunity when kind of the lockdown started to happen where we were able to access the office and take certain items, sign them out from the business to use at home. So I'm currently sat on an office chair because the one that I had previously was an uncomfortable wooden chair, and equally I'm using a secondary display where I've had top and have a display at the correct height. So yeah, so basically we've given that opportunity to staff. A lot of people, because of the way we work, already had kind of good office setups at home, but it's just important that you do set yourself up and that you're comfortable at home, and that that you don't get any kind of secondary issues such as bad backs or anything like that. I think is quite important.
Which is where I'm going to invite Helen to come in, and Helen has very helpfully put a useful link onto the chat at the moment about what to consider when asking employees to work from home. But I guess many businesses like mine, we suddenly found we were sending everyone home. So the rules around making sure that your workstation was at the right height and all of that probably got a bit forgotten. But actually, as an employer, we are obligated, are we not, to make sure that we have checked out home working as well.
Absolutely, yeah. You still have your duty of care to your employees from all aspects. So yeah, the physical environment is really important. I'm not a health and safety specialist, but I know a little bit about health and safety. It links quite nicely to HR, obviously. And there is information both on our website. We have also some e-learning materials that are available on home working and many other health and safety areas. But there's loads and loads of information on the health and safety executive. When I stop talking, I'll look up a link and post that on the chat box as well. So you can ask employees to do their own risk assessment and forward those to you. And ideally, you'll be able to respond to any issues that they come up with. So like Stephen said, if there's an office chair available, then that will be absolutely perfect. If there's any access to extra equipment, such as even just buying a cheap keyboard or something to plug into the laptop, which might be more comfortable, more ergonomically friendly, all of those things still do apply. So there's probably some fairly cost-effective ways to make sure that you're encouraging staff to look after their physical environment. And we've mentioned it before, but taking breaks is so important and moving around is so important. So please, as employers, do encourage all your employees to take their breaks. And if we have a lunchtime huddle, for example, just every lunchtime, anyone who is free comes in, joins the Teams chat, much like Stephen said, joins the team chat, and it's not to talk about work, it's just to say hi, and just remind each other to stand up, go and have yours. Some people are coming in there with their sandwich in front of them. Don't eat your sandwich now, please go and sit in the garden when it was nice, or sit at a different place in your house. Go for a wander around your house if you can't go outside. So encouraging people to move around as well, so we're not just stuck in one place, because naturally if we were in the office we would be getting up and down probably more. Certainly I know I'm more active when I'm normally working, because I'm travelling to meetings, so I'm definitely sitting at my desk for much longer. And we shouldn't be doing it.
No, definitely not. I just wanted to pick up on something that was touched upon earlier, and that was it with regards to when people are furloughed, this issue of they can't actually work for you, so sometimes it's difficult. We realise that obviously if you furlough someone, then you can't actually drop them an email to say, why don't you come on this call, because they're not actually reading their emails because they're furloughed. So keeping that connectivity open. But can you just clear up for anyone who's unclear, if you're furloughed, you are allowed to work for someone else, ironically, and you are also able to volunteer or do training. So employers can be encouraging their staff to do all of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. So as long as the contract of employment allows it, then you can go and work for somebody else. And as long as you're available to come back to work when your employer wants to take you off furlough, so something like a sort of 0 hours type arrangement with temporary arrangement with another company would be absolutely fine, as long as your employer says that's okay. Training is absolutely to be encouraged, and it specifically says that on the guidance from the government. So lots and lots of online training opportunities the digital and the numeracy ones that are just posted on there. And there's hundreds of things that we can all be doing and training on at the moment. So just to bear in mind for employers, be careful if you're asking employees to do any training, that if they're normally paid the national minimum wage, you would have to top that up if you're only paying them 80%. So if you're asking them to undertake some training and they're paid less than the minimum wage while they're on furlough, then you'd have to top that up.
But if they're doing it voluntarily because they want to upskill themselves, then that's not the same obligation.
Yeah, that's fine. And of course, it doesn't have to be anything that's related to work either. You could just be learning a new personal skill, which would be great for your well-being. And volunteering is absolutely fine as well. You're not allowed to volunteer for your own organisation, of course, which is a question we've had. Can they do it? Can they come work for me for free? Or no, because that's still doing work. So you can go and volunteer somewhere else.
It is a bit of a strange one, isn't it, that? But I guess you've got to have a rule, and you've got to start somewhere, and that's the way it is. I'm going to come to each of you. We've got a sort of, we're down to our last 10 minutes. I just want to come to each of you in turn and ask for sort of your final sort of thought, if you like, your top tip. We've covered a lot of stuff, and there's really helpfully a lot of links being put onto the chat. And in particular, I love the mindfulness, 10-minute mindfulness meditation that you've put up, Farah. You can talk a bit more about that. You're suggesting that we should all try it, see how we feel after 2 weeks, which sounds like a really great idea. We should definitely do that. So yeah, thank you for putting that up. So starting, first of all, I'm going to come to Marlo and Valentino. Sort of your sort of top tip for keeping your body healthy and eating correctly and engaging with maybe your employers or your employees. What would you say your top tip was this afternoon?
Well, from a physical point of view, I would recommend to do something every day, or if it's not possible, because I understand that in a lockdown time, it's very easy to think that everybody has time every day. But I understand that if someone takes this time for studying or do something else or catch up with something else. Anyway, if we manage to do something at least every other day in a full body routine, so moving every single part of the body. I think about squat. Everybody can do squat, lunges, or some push-ups. There are even going on YouTube, you can find a lot of easy version of every single exercise. Body weight workout is the one we need to look at this moment, unless there are a few lucky people, they manage to get some couple of dumbbells or some pieces of equipment to be used. But really, this is not important. This is not necessary. We can do a lot with our body weight. And then in terms of eating well and treating well your body, pretty much Sonal has covered everything before with very interesting tips. Stay hydrated, so drink a lot of water, eat well. Cook your own food. It's very interesting actually, and it's more enjoyable as well.
Yeah, we would say there's stuff around the home that you can use as well. So if you don't have weights, even using tins or like Lenore bottles, just to add a little bit of weight to your body weight is also a good tip as well. Having a good routine, so going to sleep at a reasonable time, waking up at a reasonable time. It's very easy to lie in, and then when we get back to our normal routine, it's going to be difficult for some people to adapt. So just having keeping the routine as normal as possible, including some exercise in your day. Even going for a walk is better than doing absolutely nothing. And in terms of keeping in contact with your employees, we would say just a simple once a week video chat, a very social, coffee, just talk, and just make sure everybody's mental health is good as well, because you don't know who they're living with, and kind of their day to day. It's good to kind of you know, keep in contact and make sure that everybody's still okay on your team, and it will create a better social environment when you go back to work for your employees. So very happy to be in place.
I think it's really important that we are all going to go back to some sort of new normal at some point. And in the same way as it was a shock to us to all start working from home, it will probably be a shock again when we all have to go back to commuting in or working from our office and actually having that communication with lots of people. You know, I can see there's going to be some challenges around that when we go back the other way, and probably some compromises as well that we'll all be making in terms of how we run our business. So thanks very much for that, Sonal. Just in terms of, you know, nutrition, your immune system, looking after ourselves, your final thoughts.
Yeah, so just to add on, one of my tips would be use this time to experiment with like healthy baking, kind of low sugar, no sugar snack alternatives, and healthy cooking. And if you've got children at home, get them involved. You know, it gives them a chance to take a break off their technology. They can maybe help you find a recipe, and then you can go shopping for ingredients with them, which is quite fun. So I think that, you know, be creative with your cooking, because a lot of the time, you know, we are busy, we don't have time to cook. I mean, some individuals, I won't say everyone. So it gives you a chance to maybe experiment with one or two recipes a week, and you know, you can tailor the meal. So whenever I'm cooking or baking, I always tweak a recipe, you know, put Sonal's little twist on it and make it that step healthier. And then immune system support. Yeah, I think it's going to be looking at kind of all areas of your health, so fitness and sleep, and just try and get some extra veggies in, because there is a lot of research, just to add as well, about vitamin C, vitamin D, and probiotics, and also zinc and selenium, which are 2 minerals to help with viruses. So we're not just talking about this COVID-19, but even preventing flus and colds for later on. Right now, we've actually got hay fever season, so individuals are allergic to grass and tree pollen, you know, so I've got natural remedies for those. So don't discredit supplements, because they're just as important. So primarily try and get your nutrition from your diet, you know, because our soils are so depleted, so we want to boost the nutritional value. So yes to carbs, yes to proteins, yes to good fats. You know, enjoy a little bit of things that you like that are maybe classed as the naughty foods in moderation, and stay hydrated, and then supplement. And if anyone's got any questions at all about anything nutrition related, they can contact me. I also do one-to-one support as well. I'm happy to offer discounts as well during this period. So yeah.
It's great to know that you're out there, and you shared some information, and people can come to you. Stephen, final thoughts from in terms of your role for Effengold?
Yeah, so I think one of the key messages I always try and deliver to, I guess, my colleagues and staff within the business when it comes to mental health is just talk. It's communication. I think that's fundamental and key. The more we talk and kind of raise awareness of mental health, the more we can break the stigma. So that's probably my message, is just to talk, just have wider conversation. And then that probably just goes with the current situation that we're in, is just communication generally, just keeping those channels open with your colleagues, and it'll make it even wider with friends and family as well. Just communicate at this time. So
that's great. Thank you. Helen, thoughts from you?
Yeah, I was also going to talk about communication, and thinking of those different ways in which you can communicate, and putting yourself in the shoes of all your employees, and remembering that everyone's different, everyone's got a different circumstance, and you know, some people will want to join in with the fun stuff. I love the pub quiz idea. I love the lunchtime huddles that we do. We sometimes have Zoom drinks after work. And there's loads of different things that people are doing. I was on a call this morning with some clients, and one of them talked about the 2 directors. There's only about 9 of them working in the business, and there's 70 odd employees who are furloughed. And the 2 directors have a rota of making a phone call to every single employee at least every 2 weeks, just to talk and say hi, and ask them how they are. And they've had such amazing feedback from just doing that. People have been so grateful that somebody's actually bothered to ring them and say, you know, how are you? And bless them, the 2 directors are run ragged, but they found the time to do it. And I think that's really going to pay back when they get time to get back to work. That's really going to give them payback, because they showed that they actually did care. So I think that can just go a long way, and you'll find out things about people that you didn't know that will be just nice, because it will deepen your relationship with your employees, but also you might be able to help. So if somebody's really struggling with something at the minute, you might actually have a solution that you can help them.
Great. I think that's a really good top tip. We've heard lots of different things that businesses and individuals are doing to keep themselves busy, help to communicate. All sorts of weird and wonderful things seem to be happening, which is fantastic. Farah, mindfulness, last thoughts from you?
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. I'm aware of time. Be kind to yourself. That's my top tip. Notice the inner critic demanding perfection and offer them a cup of tea or something. Be kind to yourself. Notice that when you're demanding perfection from your employees, be kind to them too. This is difficult. These are difficult times. Let's acknowledge that and bring kindness.
Great. That's a really good point. Nick, a Successful Sutton are hosting these, which is fantastic to help local businesses and individuals. Final thoughts from you?
Just like to express gratitude to the experts. It's been very good, and I think there's an awful lot in what has been said for the benefit of businesses, whether they be small, medium, or large.
I agree. I think it's fantastic that so many people are willing to give up their time to help others. That is about being kind, and I think that's something that this circumstances has shown, is that there is a lot of kindness out there. There's a lot of loyalty locally for businesses, everyone wanting to support each other to help people get through and come out the other side, which I think is a really positive thing. I think it's fantastic that Successful Sutton are enabling these webinars to happen. What we'd ask everyone who's listening is to share the fact that these are happening with a wider group of people. These are happening twice a week on a Tuesday and a Thursday between 2 and 3 p.m. And we want as many businesses as possible to benefit from what we're hearing. Interestingly enough, right at the beginning of the webinar, our first poll we launched was around how confident are people feeling about their businesses at this current time. Now, this will be the third time that we've run this poll in Sutton. And interestingly, a marked improvement about how people are feeling. During the first time we took this vote, 50% of the votes were saying that they were under 5 in terms of their confidence ratings. And today, 100% of people who voted were above the 7 mark. So, a really marked improvement about how confident are people feeling. And I think we just all need to be aware that that's fantastic, but there's still a journey that we're all on, and there's still going to be some bumpy roads, some bumps in the roads, some obstacles up ahead, and we need to keep continuing supporting all of us together to get us through what we don't know about what's going to happen in the future. So thank you again to everybody. On Thursday at 2 o'clock, we're going to be tackling the subject of business resilience, both in terms of what as businesses we need to do to make us resilient, but also starting to think about how we need to react in terms of looking at how our businesses need to change. One of the things that we've heard today and on many other occasions is that I don't think any business is going to come out the same way as they went in. And so what as small businesses and medium-sized businesses do we need to be doing now to think about the changes we might need to be looking at to our business to make us in the right place for when we come out, whenever that might be. So that's Thursday's subject. If you want to be part of that conversation, please do get in touch, drop us a line, but make a note in your diaries to be back with us at 2 o'clock on Thursday. So thanks again to everyone for taking part. Thanks to Successful Sutton. Stay well, and we hope that we'll see you on Thursday. Thanks very much.